Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. I'm Richard Allan. One of my favorite stocks to talk about, period, bar none, hands down, is Nano Dimension. Now, Nano Dimension is beat up lately. It's still down. Right now, it's under $10 per share again, but I have really good news. Every time Mini-Me and Chris Farley get together and talk, or aka Yoav Stern and Dave Gentry, it seems to be a positive catalyst for Nano Dimension, and a new interview on the Red Chip Money Report was released today. It was recorded a couple weeks ago, but it was released today on the Red Chip Money Report's YouTube channel. So I'm going to play a little snippet of this interview for you. And it gives us a little more information based on acquisition targets. So I'm going to play a couple minutes of it for you. We're going to talk about it afterwards, but I'm excited. I'm excited for this interview. I think we learned a little bit more about how Yoav is going about what companies to acquire. And again, he talked about how they've talked to 80 some different companies probably, but they've narrowed it down quite a bit. So I have that news for you. I want to peek at the chart here real quick with Nano Dimension. We've seen a lot of volatility with this stock, just like we've seen a lot of other stocks that have had a really good previous few months. Now, Nano Dimension is down 6.5% today. That stinks. But I think this interview is going to be a good positive catalyst for Nano Dimension, but we'll see. You'll have to make that decision. Now, I'm going to play a snippet here from this interview. And essentially it starts with Dave asking him about all the cash that they have on hand. So let's play this part right now.
You have nearly $1 billion in cash. You've hired two very good investment banks, including Needham. Talk to us about your acquisition strategy.
Okay, since we actually, you're right, having that, and we've developed this over the last four or 5 months, since we started to raise money, and since we started to feel that the market and our investors are really believing in the concept and the vision we're having, we hired Needham and another European bank, and we looked at two types of acquisitions, which by now, through searching, I think I scanned over 85 companies, which is a huge amount. We have serious candidates. Type A is large companies relatively in the traditional PCB industry, but in a very, very high end of this industry, which are still on the ground in Europe and the United States, and are serving the defense community, the medical community, the aviation community, the aerospace community. It's exactly called, corresponding to our target market. And those companies, there's about, I would say, 15 of them in the United States, 15 in Europe, because the rest of all this industry went to China. Those companies are targets for Type A. The reason we want to buy in Europe and the United States is we are actually buying an existing relationship with customers, distribution channels, and eventually we're going to populate all those with our technology. Type B is, there's many more companies, but they're smaller. And those are companies that have very, very promising technologies. Some of them are aiming at the same thing we are aiming, trying to compete, but they are coming from different angles. And we see in a vision of 2-3 years from now that those technologies will be integrated into our product offering. So we prefer to buy it now rather than risk in R&D. So we're looking at about, I would say, 3 or 4 companies like this in Israel, 3 or 4 in Europe, and 4 or 5 in the United States. That's the Type B.
What does the revenue look like on some of these targets?
The Type A revenue is between $50 to $200 million per company. The Type B companies are revenue between $2 million to $50 million each company.
Okay, and will you use all cash, or will you put some equity in these deals?
No, I would prefer not to use all cash. The fact that I have cash gets me in the door very fast. These people pay attention immediately. The fact that I don't want to pay cash in some cases because I want the management of the company to stay in, I want the management to be compensated and based on the upside. So I want to combine cash and shares and also to get to the right price. I will add one more thing that people should know, I'm sure they know. The SPAC, call it Tsunami, with 200 SPACs running around the market, 95% in the United States, if not 100, caused the prices in the United States to soar because those SPACs are totally not sophisticated as much as paying the right prices, especially not when they get to the last leg of their career, and their career is usually 2 years. That's when they start to raise prices. So I'm very careful not to be pulled into this ridiculous race of a rat race of paying too much. You know, it's a rat race, and even if you win, you're still being a rat. So I'm not going to pay an overpay. We are really carefully choosing the acquisitions, and therefore looking at Europe There, it doesn't happen because there's no SPAC campaigns there.
So that's hilarious, right? So Yoav's like, no, I'm not going to get stuck in this rat race bidding on a bunch of companies during this SPAC tsunami, he calls it, in the United States. And I think that's a smart decision. And it honestly, those statements in general gives him a little bit more time to think. So the further insight that this interview gave us today is they're looking for two different types of companies with that really they only have a few options in like those type A businesses that he was talking about. The type A business will have upwards of $200 million worth of revenue per year, and they already have existing customers in aerospace, defense, things like that, okay? And maybe those companies have some existing technology that they want. Now, the type B companies, they may not have revenue even in the $50 million range per year, but those companies are companies that are synergistic, but also these are companies that have technologies that they're trying to compete, but they're still a couple years out. So Yoav is saying, look, we would like to purchase that sort of technology, that intellectual property, instead of developing our own over the next few years. And that's a way, you know, a lot of companies do this. They acquire different sort of companies to further their research a little bit quicker than they could on their own. So this is a smart way to do it. Now, so based on that information, I would love to have a discussion with you guys about what companies, now we have more information, what companies that are private, 15 in the US, 15 in Europe, that's what he's saying. There's not a ton of these companies, so we should be able to figure out which of these companies Nano Dimension is looking to acquire. I would be excited to have that discussion with you guys because now we've narrowed it down so much, right? We're looking for companies with a couple $100 million worth of revenue at the most, which would be good because Nano Dimension, had $3.5 million worth of revenue last year. So it would be nice for them to take over some companies with a lot of revenue. It would be good to see, and I think that would be some added sentiment to the market. Now, I want to peek at the chart here one more time before we go. It's looking like it's holding right at that 6.5% down, right around 960 or so per share. I'm really hoping that this stays above $9. My worry is that it would drop below $9 and it could fall a little bit further after that. So I'm hoping this is really, really good support here, and it's going to bounce up back to 12, 14, 16, hopefully really, really soon. But again, the way the market's acting right now, I'm not surprised by anything right now. I'm really, really not. So guys, let me know what you think. Let's talk about what companies they might be bringing public. I think this is really exciting news. I hope that this is a positive catalyst for Nano Dimension. These interviews have been positive catalysts in the past, so I hope they are again. All right, that's all I have for you for this video. Thank you so much for joining me for the third video of the day. I appreciate you. If you want to have more of a direct communication link to me, consider joining the Patreon and being a part of the private Discord. I would love to have you over there. It's patreon.com/I'm Richard Allan, or there's a link down in the description. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. Again, I'm Richard Allan. If you didn't already do it, click that beautiful red subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.